Well, I thought we'd be done with this whole illymation situation, but lo and behold, not 2 days after I released the video about her trying to deplatform me, one of her friends is having a meltdown on Twitter. But this isn't just any friend, this is the friend. But before we get started, a little recap. About a month ago, I released a video on the animation storytime YouTuber Illymation that criticized her video called Perks of Being the Fat Kid. Alyssa from Illymation did not take that criticism well and responded by committing libel when she said to her fans on Tumblr that I organized a targeted harassment campaign against her because I made a video saying, "Hey, I don't like this thing. This thing you did here is bad." That's not harassment, Alyssa. That's called criticism. Plot twist, the actual harasser was Alyssa as she called upon her followers to mass flag a video that she didn't even watch. How did she know what the video contained? Well, a friend watched it for her, told her what was in it in a very misleading way, and today we have found that this is that friend. His name is Dillon. He won an award for being Hater of the Year, and now he's throwing a tantrum over the follow-up video that I made on Illymation that basically said, hey, maybe it's a little fucked up to go after someone's livelihood because they said a thing you didn't like. Now, because of this whole situation, and since we talked about Robert Cialdini's book Influence in the first video, I thought I might discuss some influencing technique that is being used here, whether knowingly or not, to rile up support for Dillon and Alyssa's side without any actual arguments being made. So when you ask yourself, why are so many people listening to this person even though they didn't actually use facts, reasoning, and logic to make their argument, you'll know why. The answer is basically because people care about emotional pulls far more than they care about facts, so let's discuss some of those specific pulls. Which brings us to Twitter and this thread here. It says, so I wasn't going to make a stink about this in order to not draw more attention to it than necessary, but allow me to fill you all in on something that has angered me lately. Mad face, mad face, mad face, lots of thread. This is going to be a long post. Well, if you didn't want to draw my attention towards this, then why did you tag me in your post? Strange behavior. It's almost like you wanted my audience and I to see this. The next comment says, recently, a right-wing debate lord-style YouTube channel made a response piece to this Illymation video, basically just being very misogynistic and fatphobic during the entirety of which. And as you all know, I have an exercise science degree, so I was asked for my 2 cents. Well, with an introduction like that, I can definitely tell that this is the friend from Alyssa's Tumblr post. That being said, do these people not see the irony of calling themselves the victims, followed by introducing their opponents with some of the most harsh language possible? Just like I said in the last video, before any of my material has been discussed, the audience has been told that I'm right-wing, I've been associated negatively with dishonest debate lords who will use any tactic to win an argument, and I've been called a fatphobic misogynist that you need to be angry about. So emotionally, when he says I'm right-wing, they know I'm an outsider who does not belong to their group. I've been accused of intentionally causing harm through my ideas with the use of the terms debate lord, fatphobic, and misogynist, and the audience has been told how they should feel about me. Again, all before they've been exposed to anything that I've said. Meanwhile, I introduced Alyssa in the most neutral fashion possible by calling her an animation storytime YouTuber in the first video and gave her a chance to speak before I gave my opinion on her ideas. How exactly am I the bigot when I gave my audience a chance to form their own ideas about Alyssa before I voiced mine? Yet you started your comment out with, hate this person you don't know. I haven't seen an introduction this biased towards making you dislike someone that you've never seen before since I watched David Pakman introduce one of his political opponents to Dr. K.
So basically, I talked to all sorts of people on my show. I found Jimmy to be an interesting character, a sad character in many ways, though Jimmy does regularly say, homophobic things, transphobic things, racist things. Jimmy has talked to me about his problems with alcohol, and you guys can probably see he's got some bottles there over his right shoulder. Jimmy has talked about how he has a daughter, but at least at one point wasn't allowed to see her because of some physical violence. Jimmy was also arrested not long ago because of, as I understand it, chasing a car with 4 black teenagers down the street while intoxicated. And that's kind of the Jimmy that I know big picture.
Quite the introduction.
A few minutes later, Dr. K was like, holy crap, man, that was a messed up intro.
I was frankly kind of shocked. I mean, David, is it okay if I be critical of you for a second?
Please, I would love it.
So here he is introducing you, and he starts off with bottles in the back and got arrested for this, and it's kind of a weird way.
David's a real charmer.
Yeah, I mean, how does that
He's a
feel to
charmer.
be? I mean, like, because it's almost like he's sharing like the most negative or provocative things about you.
Well, David's a propagandist. What can I tell you? I mean, he's good at it,
I don't know much about David Pakman, but in this case, someone who treats an opponent like that is not acting in good faith. Let's get back to Dillon's post. Next he says, "Now let me lead by saying that I don't really know either of these people. I never heard of right-wing grifter guy at all, and Illy is sort of a friend where we have interacted very little in the past. These people have no self-awareness, do they? This whole statement is basically him trying to argue that he's not biased because he doesn't really know either of us. He's trying to frame his opinion as the fair opinion. Meanwhile, he's added yet another insult to the list of reasons why you should hate me before even knowing who I am, while he continues to describe Alyssa neutrally. And then he says they aren't friends when she called him a friend and was willing to risk her public reputation and technically a potential lawsuit on his opinion. It sounds like you might know each other a little better than you know me, a person that you've never spoken to. Not to mention that you run in similar circles with similar ideologies, which gives her in-group preference, and I'm, as you described, a complete stranger. People you have things in common with are more likely to be influenced by you, which is why this is an important thing to focus on. Higher familiarity influences his bias." Next, Alyssa's friend Dillon goes on to recap the events for the audience in a totally not biased way, and then shows the entire commentary that he gave on my video, uncensored, full Discord name, anime girl avatar and all, so that we know that he in fact was the mysterious friend that Alyssa was referring to in her Tumblr post. Look at him go. So proud that he made it into a YouTube video. Hey Dillon, do you know what a great way to not draw attention to this would be? Publicly stating on Twitter, "Hey everyone, I just want to make sure that you know it was me who wrote this. I want the credit for it." Okay, so we have 3 posts of him saying, "Oh my god, Senpai noticed me," and after 8 posts of him telling his potential audience to hate me, Dillon finally allows people to see my actual arguments. Well, not really. In the second video here, Buddy claims to have a 4-year degree in kinesiology, basically the same degree I have, which I find wild, because initially he claimed very basic things like working out while on a restrictive diet isn't the cause of your dizziness while exercising. Okay, so thanks for essentially confirming that she was suggesting that eating too little was causing the random dizziness that she was experiencing. Though it's weird that he frames it like this because I did suggest that eating too little can cause that problem. These people must have selective hearing issues. However, as you highlighted here, that's probably not the case because if she was doing a large enough calorie restriction to get dizziness during exercise, then she would have been losing weight. And I mean, you really have to calorie restrict to experience what she was experiencing. So I gave some suggestions of what might cause that, such as nasal allergies, and what a shock, here she is saying that she has nasal allergies. How did I know? Like I said, see an ear, nose, and throat doctor. You know, if she just told her incredibly biased friend to shut up and actually watched my video, she might have learned something. This guy is super dishonest, and something I didn't notice before I edited the second video is this here. He says I called Alyssa an ugly piece of shit. I never said that. And what the hell? What kind of friend is this? You're like taking a person who you already claimed is insecure and trying to make her feel worse by wildly misrepresenting what I said. Did you say that because you wanted to call Alyssa ugly? Because I didn't call her ugly. I started off by complimenting her natural features, and then I said she would look way better if she learned color theory and picked a dress that suited her personality, after which I gave her resources in case she wanted to learn more about what would look better. But saying someone's makeup is bad is not the same as saying someone is ugly. I mean, this is like some mean girl shit where this friend Dillon is like, "Did you hear that this person called you an ugly piece of shit? Oh my god, why would he do that? It's so misogynistic." Meanwhile, you're the person who actually said it. Moving on, he talks about the doctors and dietitians part and says my advice is bad without giving any examples of what he's talking about. I already addressed this in the other 2 videos, and this guy seems to be allergic to providing specific examples. He calls me a misogynist, but did he give any examples of me being misogynistic? Nope. Criticism is not misogyny, Dillon. He also accused me of being right-wing. Did he provide any examples of me saying things that are right-wing? Because you know that many left-wing people are against fat acceptance, right? So did you just assume that I'm on the right because of that? Didn't you say that you shouldn't assume a person is on the left because of their opinion on fat acceptance? Yet you assumed my politics because of my opinion on fat acceptance. You also suggested that politics did not belong in this discussion, yet it was the first thing you brought up. Dillon goes on to suggest that kids in Alyssa's audience, which should be roughly middle school to high school age, are too stupid to do elementary school math when it comes to food, or talk to their parents about health, and therefore it is okay to gaslight them about a carrot being just as healthy for you as a chocolate bar when you have diabetes. Meanwhile, Alyssa is over here complaining that she can't lose weight while simultaneously promoting the worst and most addictive food to children, followed by telling them that if they're trying to lose weight and things get too hard, just give up. Did nobody find it ironic that Alyssa made this big deal about plastic pollution and greenhouse gases, followed by me showing a researcher saying, hey, if you want to prevent a lot of plastic pollution and stop a giant portion of greenhouse gases from being produced, then maybe people should stop overeating ultra-processed junk food. Her lack of education in these topics is causing the harm to the environment that she wants to prevent. Obesity is one of the biggest causes of pollution. Dillon then says that advice should be non-demeaning and only given when solicited. I guess he was making the assumption that I was actually giving advice to Alyssa, which is fair, but I'm not. I know it seems like I'm doing that, but I'm never actually giving advice to the people who are the subject of my videos. This is like influencing 101, straight out of Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Never criticize people if you want them to listen to you, especially if they're people you don't know. It will almost always fail. So I'm not criticizing Alyssa. I'm actually criticizing people in the audience who are like Alyssa. I'm criticizing the people who say they can't lose weight. I'm criticizing people who don't know how to dress or make themselves look good. I'm criticizing the people who cite secondary or tertiary sources and call that research. There are plenty of people out there who will say, this is from a magazine. Surely a magazine won't misrepresent information or lie to me to get viewership. That's who this video is for. The criticism is directed at someone else so that the viewer listens to it instead of getting defensive. And if Alyssa doesn't like an example being made of her or unsolicited advice, then she should quit YouTube. Negative feedback is something every creator has to deal with. Welcome to being in a public space. You don't get to reap the rewards of fame and money without the consequences. And the whole suggestion that the advice must be nice is ridiculous. Have these people never taken criticism before? Most useful advice is mean and offensive because it will almost always attack an area that you've been avoiding, which is why you haven't fixed the problem. Do you think Aubrey Gordon would be happy about me telling her that her overeating is putting her on the verge of some pretty serious illnesses? No, she's already gone on multiple rants complaining about people trying to get her to pay attention to a problem that she's been avoiding. Dillon then proceeds to do what all these people do because they're lazy, which is look at a bunch of titles and thumbnails and assume they know what's in the video instead of actually watching it. Ironically, these are the same people who will say, don't judge a book by its cover. Oh no, there's a bunch of women in the thumbnails. I guess he only talks about women, which must mean he hates them. Hey look Dillon, I found another misogynistic channel that exclusively puts women in the thumbnails. How terrible that women are the only thing that this YouTuber talks about. Never mind that if you actually watch these videos, you can see that quite a number of them are about men or were made in defense of women. This one here is about a bunch of ESG-filled big tech companies taking a woman named Grace Hopper, who was actually strong and actually very good at her job, and using her name to promote meritless diversity hiring that she would most certainly be against. Way to piss on the grave of a person who actually knew what she was doing and actually made people respect women in tech. How about this video? Well, the majority of it was spent criticizing men. The things I said about them were much more harsh than anything I said about Alyssa, and when one of them reacted to it, he laughed it off. The first thing that stands out about Jaren is how bad his hair is.
Yes.
It looks like he doesn't shower or comb it.
Right.
How about this video? Surely this one is evil and misogynistic. Well, unfortunately, the primary source material for it ended up being a skit that fooled basically everyone, but one of the major reasons that I made this video was so that I could crap on manosphere lolcows like Donovan Sharpe, who said some of the most demeaning shit to his wife during their marriage vows in the Walmart wedding that he provided for her.
It's been a hell of a ride. I bring out the best in you, but you make me happy, you really do. I was happy before you, and if you and I decide to part ways for whatever reason, I'll be happy without you. I'm glad that I made you into the woman you are today.
I am like 90% sure that his wife financially supports him because if this guy has YouTube as his primary source of income, with these views, I would be shocked if he makes $1,500 a month before taxes. Unless he's getting some big super chats off his 50 live viewers, then he is nowhere near the high-value man that he claims to be. Moral of the story, yet again, maybe you should watch the videos that you're criticizing. I don't get this. I never do that. There wasn't one video of Alyssa's that I commented on that I didn't watch. I mean, I had to sit through hours of that podcast maintenance phase just to talk about it for 3 minutes in a video. I never just assume that I know the entire context of something that I haven't watched. But at the very least, If this guy's going to use a guilt by association tactic, then he should probably make sure that I actually believe the same things as the people he's associating me with. This whole thing has made me unreasonably angry. I don't know, maybe go see a therapist if you're getting this emotional about internet drama that doesn't really involve you. 1. Academically attacking a personal story. What? What does this even mean? Alyssa at least attempted to quote science. I'm not allowed to criticize that academically with science because she told an anecdote during her video? I'm not allowed to teach the science of how weight loss works to people who are struggling? 2. Discrediting academically trained professionals, doctors, and dietitians. He loves that word academically, I guess. I'll say it again. Most doctors don't know shit about fitness or nutrition because they aren't trained in it, and I bet most of them don't even read the ingredients labels on their food. And a ton of dietitians believe in intuitive eating, too, which sounds a lot like enabling when it comes to people who can't lose weight, and I have yet to see that ideology actually take an obese person and put them at a healthy or athletic weight. The point is that obese people don't have a strong intuition on what's good for them, which is why they need counseling. So instead of just making an appeal to authority by saying, "How dare he not believe whatever a doctor says? Don't you know it's a doctor?" Why don't you actually address why I don't think a lot of doctors and dietitians are qualified to counsel people on weight loss? 3. Being wrong with your own inserted air quote researched opinions. Something about the way this guy writes makes me think he didn't pass English class. First of all, you only really criticized one take I had on exercise, so it's opinion, not opinions. Second, how was I wrong? Let's go back to this. It says, this guy claimed to work in the fitness industry in the past before making this claim that he doubts that eating too little would impact things. Again, the way this guy writes is confusing. That's actually not what I said in the video. You only think I said something ridiculous because you weren't paying attention because of your bias towards Alyssa, which means you were watching the video actively looking for things that you could accuse me of being wrong about instead of assessing the correctness of an idea neutrally. And you probably didn't have enough foresight to spend a few minutes rewatching the content before you made this massive Twitter thread. Because in reality, I in fact did say that eating too little will impact your exercise performance, which is why I said not to cut more than 500 calories per day when dieting. However, I said that I doubted it was affecting Alyssa's performance because she said she could previously run a mile, followed by barely being able to handle walking. In order to have that happen due to a calorie deficit, you have to basically be starving yourself, which would mean she would be losing weight. Alyssa's whole problem was that after 4 months, she didn't lose weight, so I doubt that food was the issue. 4. Needlessly derogatory and aggressive. Yeah, I'll be sure to take advice on how to consult someone without coming off as aggressive from the guy who starts his arguments out with a bunch of insults and by saying that he's been angered lately. The new video is hilariously ironic considering that the unironic Rumble poster, nice, making fun of Rumble, tell me more about how you don't have to actually worry about YouTube randomly deplatforming you because you have the YouTube-approved politics. The unironic Rumble poster here boasts his qualifications while diminishing Illy's friend, parentheses, mine. Wait, so you're friends now? I thought you were able to maintain an impartial opinion on this subject because you don't really know her. To do so, while sincerely attributing someone's weight problems to smoking weed, LOL, which she doesn't even do, is beyond me. For one, that's not what I said. You are wildly taking me out of context and putting words in my mouth. What I actually said is that if she smokes weed, then she might be experiencing lightheadedness due to being allergic to it. 2, you seem to know a lot about Alyssa's personal life for someone who isn't friends with her. Look at this. Someone in the comments rightfully points out his dishonest report about what I said about Alyssa's diet. He follows that up with, this could very well be true. However, the explanation that he goes on to offer immediately afterwards is that she's allergic to marijuana? This is a huge leap in logic and making a ton of very unlikely assumptions that turn out to be completely off base. Weird how he will say that I'm off base when I never said she was a smoker. I said it's a possibility given her sense of humor, and I was completely correct about her having allergies, by the way, which could have been causing the dizziness that she was experiencing. For me to watch 15 seconds of the initial video and my knee-jerk reaction of it being an incel pandering right-wing grift channel, not knowing that I was 100% correct, is too hilarious to me. That's a strange statement because the first 20 seconds of that video is just Alyssa talking. You were able to glean all that before I even said anything? Also, he's displaying average Hassan Piker viewer levels of argumentation here by assuming that all of his political opponents on the right are grifters. Great analysis. Everyone who doesn't agree with me is a bad person and a liar. Are you going to be honest about you wrongly assuming that I'm a Ben Shapiro fan? I mean, these days a lot of people are crapping on the Daily Wire. Here comes my favorite part. This exacerbated by the fact I get my own words picked apart for lack of qualification without me even seeking it out. Again, literally the mentality of, it's okay for me to take shots at you and try to deplatform you, but if you take shots back, then I'm going to play the victim. I mean, you didn't take a stance against deplatforming despite it being the main subject of my video, so I'm going to assume that you're in favor of it. But this guy's horrendous misreporting to Alyssa of what was said in my video led her to trying to get my channel taken down, and I'm not allowed to criticize it because you didn't say I could? What's this without you seeking it out BS? I don't have to ask your permission to criticize your nonsense and deliberate misreporting of what I said in my video, and I don't have to ask Alyssa's permission to criticize her either. Imagine if that was the law. No one would ever write a bad movie review or say a video game sucked if they had to ask the company's permission first. Sorry, my bad. That wasn't my favorite part. This is actually my favorite part. In a true Taylor Lorenz style fashion, Dillon claims that he tried to contact me, but I refused to respond or was too scared to comment, and thus I am a dishonest person. First of all, what part of this message says that you are related to Alyssa in any way or are asking questions on her behalf? Because to me, this just looks like some random message request that my DMs are already flooded with. It says, "Hey brother, I just watched through your most recent YouTube video and I thought I would reach out here hoping for a little bit of clarification on some things. Could I ask you a few questions?" Wait, you aren't going to call me a bunch of names first? Strange how your demeanor is different when you want something from me. But I get a lot of messages like this, and if someone ever says, "Can I ask you a question?" the answer is always no. And then I proceed to ignore them. Why do I do that? Because my time is valuable, and if you don't give me any information to judge if your message is a waste of time or not, I'm not going to respond to it. If you want to ask a question, then just ask the question. That way, I can determine if it's worth being responded to, or if it's going to trap me in some sort of 5-hour obligation that I'm wasting my time on, instead of producing videos. Welcome to time management. It's a key skill if you want to run a successful channel. Not to mention that if it's a bad actor such as this guy, or a reporter such as Taylor Lorenz, then any given response to them will be represented unfairly and is only going to be used as ammo against me. Remember that not only does Taylor Lorenz mischaracterize responses that she gets from her opponents, but she also doxed the libs of TikTok. So why would I want to possibly invite that in? Particularly when you know that you're deliberately and dishonestly representing who you are by pretending to be a friend. Your comment starts out with, "Hey brother," which is designed to make me feel like we're a part of the same group. A brother is a family member, and people view family members or members of their own group more favorably. I'm not saying that Dillon is consciously aware of every aspect of this, but it's a very common sales tactic, and he's using it to seem friendly and mislead me. This kind of thing, and how salespeople use it to manipulate you, is discussed in Chapter 8 of Robert Cialdini's book. The point being is that he's trying to create an unfair advantage by removing information about himself because I have no idea who he is. Meanwhile, he knows who I am because he watched my video. But do you know what an honest message request would sound like? A message that I might actually respond to? If he came in with something like, "Hi, I'm a friend of Illymation and I watched your recent video on her. She asked me my opinion on the video because I have a kinesiology degree, so I have some questions about your comments on fitness. Could you clarify your position on the effect that diet has on exercise performance?" By reading this message, I have a much more clear understanding of who this person is. I know he's biased towards Illymation, I know he probably disagrees with me, and I have been given information on what he specifically wants to know. Now I can determine if this is something worth responding to, and in this context, I probably would have responded because now it's not some random commenter, and at this point in the timeline, Alyssa did not have a reputation for being a bad actor, so Dillon would be assumed innocent by association. The thread finishes off with, "Anyways, @TBYS tweet is a clown who should not be taken seriously in any capacity, and if you or someone you know watches this type of content in sincerity, it is time for some honest introspection." Real strong on those ad homs, buddy. Do you have any actual arguments that aren't just name-calling or strawmans? Let's take a look. Somebody commented, "Can you give a specific example of him being misogynistic?" He basically responds by saying no, but he feels my content is misogynistic because I criticized overweight women. Well, I've also criticized overweight men. A lot. You would know that if you actually watch the content. Then Mr. Don't Make Assumptions About People and Don't Judge a Book by Its Cover reposts a bunch of videos that he didn't watch and assumes what's inside of them. And I know he didn't watch these videos because I made a response thread to his thread where he justified why he shouldn't have to watch them. Also, did you guys notice that he backpedals on his claim here of outright calling me a misogynist and moves on towards saying my channel is just a cause for alarm? No, buddy. You directly called me a misogynist, reported a number of things that I didn't actually say, and essentially assisted Alyssa into trying to get me a channel strike or get me deplatformed. Let's do one more comment. This guy is questioning how recently Dillon got his degree. Dillon says, "Graduated in December of 2017. I sure hope the field hasn't moved that radically since I've been out of the game. It kind of sounds like you haven't been involved with the field since you graduated over 6 years ago, and considering that you're an editor/let's player, it doesn't look like you've worked in fitness either. There's a difference between getting a degree with a report card full of C's and getting a degree where you graduated with honors and continued to study the field after school. Most of the information that I know about exercise science or kinesiology was learned after I graduated. All my degree did was teach me the basics. So if you just got a degree and moved on to something else for 6 years, then you might not exactly be knowledgeable in that field. I mean, let's be honest. How many college students can still pass their finals test 2 weeks after they take it? Anyway, that's the latest update on this drama. I thought I would use it to point out a bunch of very dishonest tactics that people such as Dillon use to get people to agree with them. So feel free to take this knowledge and use it to point out when someone is not actually responding to real arguments that you made, and instead is using a bunch of sophistry to get people to hate the person that he disagrees with. But thanks for watching, follow me on Twitter, and I'll see you in the next video.